Bill.
He's taller, even taller.
That's all right.
But it's a very tall night.
A night.
Oh, do you? Well, that'd be nice. Or hubby, you want to just stand back?
Yeah, I'll just stand back.
John, I love you. You got a big voice.
Yeah, I've got a big voice. I've done this before. Here we go. I had a friend who went to England 25 years ago, 30 years ago. He was a playwright. He walked out on the beach one evening, overcome with asthma, and died. Nobody knew where he had gone. 5 years later, his parents went to look for him. He was a great friend of mine. He was a jazz musician, and he was a playwright. This is for him. A slingback chair and sweet red wine, a letter not written, a friend not seen, quiet jazz, tempo, slow, light, shadow, lungs full of water, nostrils still, a pause in the music, a choke, a cough, a trifle, just part of the piece. A little flow makes for relief, the pianist smiles, a little trill, a pause and applause, and your lungs are filled with water and sand, and the drummer's hand beats out a rhythm that's going just a little too slow. Maybe they do it just for effect, to give the crowd just a glimpse of death. Or maybe it's a rhythm I don't understand, a pulse that has stopped, the grave of a friend. We're always taught that in classical culture is one that precedes ours, and I grew up on the West Coast, on the water and in the woods here, and I don't think it's true. This is called Indian country. Whale people, bear men, and eagle's wings are Neptune and Vulcan and Zeus. They surge through the tides of memory at Hole in the Wall, Malibu, and Skookumchuck, and measure out rock time in inches for eons. Quackydoodle spilled, the speared, the silver flash here before Socrates or Ptolemy ever fished for words. Longboats stroked, sweat and chant. They crested the swell, the tide roar, and the maelstrom before Oedipus drowned in bloody tears. Petroglyphs etched silent on the walls of the gorge still watch the flood that Noah survived, and the silver cedar longhouse smokes with the incense of the Sphinx. I don't know if you've traveled around. Some of the inlets that go into the interior of the province go right up into the mountains. And Princess Louise at the top end of Jarvis End, that's a hanging U valley. And the cliffs are absolutely vertical, and it's like 100 feet wide, and it's a really primal place. It's where birth and death happen at the same time. It's an extraordinarily vigorous environment. The cliffs are so high and narrow over the water that the sun runs them up and down through moon. Sorry, I'll do it again. The cliffs are so high and narrow over the water that the sun runs them up and down through noon and seesaws across the bleak, deep, and dead black waters that are cold mothers' wombs, ripped and fringed in the rumbling tides that sweep clean through the crevice and echo and mirror the snow that is Cynthia white in the peaks. Mountains reach up and out, tearing themselves rock from water, up, out, away from the sunless chasm where shell saws crawl, to the cliff edge rock, to the chattering death, to the snow waterfalls, to the tiny beach, the only inundation, the only penetration into, out of the flat, black, rain and mist-drenched, damp, and moss-grown womb, warmed only flash in the flush of summer, then abandoned to ice. It is wolf-howl cold, and the winter is wind in rut, grinding and falling onto, into, through the black-iced seawater bed, enfolding, entombing all save the crawl, the crops, the scuttle, the crab, the swim, and the dance. Short ones. Those were the short ones. I'm going to do one. It's a little bit longer. All right, fine. Okay. Some relationships, I think, begin in violence and end in violence, go badly. This is one of those relationships. Began with a car crash. Halfway to Indian Harbor, off the road fast and into the sea, the new ice broken, sharded and flung, skidding into the night. I'm holding you close, halfway to Indian Harbor, interrogated by ice. Off a corner I've been round before, halfway to Indian Harbor, we slid together, children on a toboggan into each other's sea. Halfway to Indian Harbor, the ice split like sinew. The survivors standing on the roadside covered with piss. Halfway to Indian Harbor, my flesh touched yours. We exploded off the rocks. Our lives flashed past. In an infinite moment of slow smoke, we were weightless and landed in the sea. Halfway to Indian Harbor, there was an accident, and we spiraled out of control into the ice, the sea, and the night. Halfway to Indian Harbor, we split rocks with our touch, bent metal and splintered grass, broke all the connections and fused together, barnacles on rock. Halfway to Indian Harbor, there was ice on the road, and we couldn't see what we were getting into. The setup for this one is a little bit odd. Imagine, if you will, that you are sitting at a dining room table. You're talking about a car crash. There's a doctor at the table. He's talking about stuff. And there are cats and dogs eating food under the table. It's called black ice. Williams Lake, 13 broken ribs and a crushed pelvis across 2 lanes of traffic into a ditch. I'd always wanted to change drivers before we got there. I had driven through before. Nothing had ever happened. I sat eating rabbit stew. He said they were both killed. She was not him. I looked across the table at my wife. Are you sure you don't want any supper? You'll be sick if you don't eat. The doctor kept saying he would kill the cats, especially the psychotic one. I really wished I could have rabbit stew more often. He said she pushed her head through the windshield. I looked across the table at my wife, not eating. I had driven the road before. The cats crawled on the table. The doctor said he would shoot the psychotic one. It snarled. Cats can eat rib bones. Dogs can't. We could hear the cats chewing bones in the kitchen. It was night and the headlights suddenly veered. There was no way he could have avoided it. Black ice. We always seemed to arrive at dinner time, not because we wanted dinner, but because dinner time changed at their house, and we always arrived at the wrong time. I was never supposed to have any, but I always did. My wife sat on the other side of the table, not eating. I knew exactly where it had happened. I knew the road, I knew the ditch. The doctor said if the cats didn't stop, he'd put the whole lot in the sea. We had 2 cats. We knew he wouldn't do it. She looked hurt each time he threatened. He said she had massive internal injuries. He was saved by the seatbelt and the steering wheel. Her head went through the front window. We could hear the cats chewing bones in the kitchen. The dogs were whimpering because they were hungry. I knew my wife was hungry, but wouldn't eat. I always ate when we arrived at supper time, but only if they offered. Still, she looked at me as if I were doing something wrong. I'd driven the road so many times, I knew the place. The cats crawled on the table again. He took a swipe at one, and it ducked. I'll kill those cats, especially that one. It snarls and scratches. No hope for that cat. None. It'll go first chance. My wife said she would take it. Black ice, no chance. We had 2 cats. We'd ask for trouble. It would have to go. I could imagine the car skidding. I could hear her screaming. Black ice. The cats finished gnawing the bones. I had coffee. She offered to take the psychotic one. The doctor gave her some more bones. I've driven the road so many times. Never a chance. She died. Black ice. My wife didn't have any coffee. We left the cats and rode home. I'll do 2 more. Is that all right?
Yeah.
My sister, when she was young, had a boyfriend whose sister drove her car into a man on the side of the road late at night coming home from work.
Not another accident.
Yeah, I like accidents. She thought he was a barrel. He just turned 60, weekend before Christmas. He just bought a new bicycle, night watchman. He was so happy. His brother from Calgary had come to visit, the night watchman. She was out for a Christmas drive. She was scared. She said she hit a barrel. The police found him, the night watchman. Just 60, Christmas Eve, new bicycle, brother from Calgary. She thought he was a barrel, the night watchman. She was 17, brand new car, short drive. She said she hit a barrel, but it was the night watchman. My sister's boyfriend relieved him on Christmas Eve, 60-year-old, new bicycle. I almost felt related to him. She thought he was a barrel. I almost knew his brother, the night watchman. I didn't hear the story till after New Year's. He had a new bicycle. She thought he was a barrel. I knew him through my sister's boyfriend. I almost knew his brother now. Christmas Eve, I knew him after New Year's. He'd been dead for 5 days, and now I knew him and his bicycle and his brother from Calgary, 60 years old, just before Christmas, the night watchman. I'm going to do one more. This is a rant.
Oh, no.
Imagine
Imagine that.
It's called I Am an Old Robot from the Age of Steam. Okay? I am an old robot from the age of steam. My fathers have gone to wars on horses and jets with swords and guns. My mothers bore children into the homes of the first ones over the top when feudal Victorian aristocrats died collecting stamps on the front before TV. What am I to make of all this cut glass crystal, these inheritances, my inherited memories? For though I was not there in Colditz, I grew up with someone who was. I'm an old robot from the age of steam. I play vinyl on a turntable and I write letters with an old Mont Blanc fountain pen. I do not own a cell phone. I will not be rushed. If I am not now wired, I'm wirelessly LAN. I am an old robot from the age of steam. My instructions push down my throat like a golem, hardwired in one direction, behaviorally predisposed in whatever way dead husbands and Colditz memories have randomly pushed upon me. I'm an old robot from the age of steam. I boomed with the babies after the war. I have one foot in Edwardian England and the other foot on Mars. I was a Beatle when Beatles were Beatles. Bob Dylan and Joan Baez sang live to me when I was young in the throes of a revolution that we philosophically won but economically lost. I was a poet then and have been for 60 years, Gollum-like, romantic, guilty that I did not live through 2 wars and a depression, but grew up a wasp in a hive of honey, golf and fishing with a fly, low-tech, drifting up on a lake upon which the radiation from Japan falls in amounts so small I will not notice. My cancers will come from the age of DDT, asbestos, and Hiroshima. The island upon which I live appears to have been given to friends of feudal lords from the 14th century. My generation created environmentalism and have been a thorn in the side of MBAs ever since. I am an old robot from the age of steam. I am stumbling loaded around the vegetable aisles looking for something other than broccoli or bok choy. I see all political parties as sops. Meet the burglar, throws to the dogs, while global money breaks into the house. Vote for whoever you want. Money talks in the back rooms where decisions are made. I am an old robot in the age of steam. I've seen a working Stanley steamer. My grandfather rode the range with Buffalo Bill. I rode the lifts at Whistler with Pierre Trudeau in 1972 before the War Measures Act became a history lesson for my children. I am an old robot from the age called drugs and rock and roll. Everything I do is irrelevant to the mainstream and nobody in Parliament can speak for me. The revolutions of Egypt, Syria, and Libya will reach Canada and throw out kleptocrats and corporate rights and replace them with real democratic rights of man. I am an angry old robot stumbling in the ruins of a lost paradise. There you go.
Grenfell Featherstone, ladies and gentlemen, give him a hand. Well, it took you 3.5 years to get here, but hopefully you'll come back. And bring your